What's up everybody? Welcome back to Vlogmas. In today's video, we are completely in the kitchen, 100%, and I'm going to teach you how I make my homemade pizza recipe that Angela and I have perfected over the years to be our go-to favorite, easiest pizza night recipes. So we're gonna do pretty much everything homemade. I'm gonna show you how we make our homemade sauce. I'm gonna show you how we make our quick rise pizza dough, which is very easy, so don't be scared. You can totally do it. And we're going to shred the cheese from a big block of cheese, and yeah, let's get started. First thing we're gonna do is make the sauce. You do need a little bit of time for the sauce. You could also just make it in advance and then put it in the fridge, but this is what you're gonna need for the sauce. And I'm so sorry, I don't measure pretty much anything for the sauce. It's by feel at this point, so I'll do my best to tell you guys how to do it. But you're gonna want 1 can of crushed tomatoes. That's a 28-ounce can, so it's a big one. This is usually how they come at the grocery store, and it's super cheap. We're gonna do 1 white onion, and usually I would put in maybe 4 cloves of garlic fresh, but I'm out right now, so we're just gonna use some extra garlic powder when we season it, and that'll do just fine. So the first thing you're gonna do is cut your onion. You could do it diced. I like to do it in little slivers. You guys will see in the montage how it comes out. And then we're gonna put together the sauce on the stove. So let's get started with cutting the onion. Alright you guys, I just peeled the onion, and then I also peeled off the first layer. I don't always do that, but sometimes if it's looking some type of way I will. So I just did that. While I'm chopping this onion, I'm gonna throw a pan on the stove and start heating it up so it can be nice and hot when we throw the onion in, which is the first step. I'm gonna go ahead and turn on this pan. I'm using an induction stove, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn on this pan. I'm not gonna put anything in it, and then once it's hot, we're gonna add oil and onion. You can probably hear the onions are sizzling and cooking, so they're just in the pan with oil like I said, and you're just gonna cook them until they're nice and caramelized, cooked to your desired amount. I like to do them for a while, nice and caramelized like I said. But we are going to prep the cheese while we're waiting for the onions. So if you know anything about me, you know the story of this cheese, and if you don't know, now you will. This is the Cabot Creamery Seriously Sharp Cheddar, and you can see right here it says 0 grams of lactose per serving. So this is real cheese, real milk, made real. Nothing about it is dairy free, so don't get it mixed up. But it is lactose free. This is aged for 18 months. It's Cabot's longest aged sharp cheddar. I randomly know a lot about this cheddar, but I'm not going to get into it. But this is what I eat on my pizza because I cannot eat mozzarella. So this is just some I had left over, and this is a fresh new block. And we're going to shred it today. And we are going to shred it by using a KitchenAid attachment, which I'll show you because I have a standing KitchenAid mixer. But before I can put it in there, I just have to cut it into smaller pieces so that it fits into the attachment really easily. It's still way easier and faster than shredding by hand though, so I highly recommend it. So there's some blocks, and I'm just going to cut this up into the same size chunks, and then I'll show you guys how to mix it on the stand mixer, which makes it super easy. The onions are still cooking and they're doing well, so I'm just going to leave them while we shred the cheese. Like I said, we're going to use the stand mixer. The first step is going to be to go ahead and take this front piece off. If you don't have a KitchenAid, then you will have to hand shred your cheese or use a cheese shredder. So keep that in mind. But if you do have a KitchenAid, you're going to take off the front attachment by loosening this little bolt right here. Just twist it just enough to get that off. And then we're going to put in the cheese shredder attachment. Mine is a knockoff version from Amazon. It's not technically KitchenAid brand, but it works perfectly, and I will link it for you guys because it's also cheaper than getting KitchenAid brand. So you just slide it in and screw this tight so that it doesn't fall off. And now you have a cheese shredder, which you guys can't see it. I just realized. Here's what the full cheese shredder looks like. So this comes out, and this is where you put the cheese. I'll show you. I'm going to drop a block in. You guys saw me cut it just to size. And then you use this to push the cheese down into this, which is the shredder. So I'm going to turn it on and show you guys how it works. I like to grab a container that I'm going to store the cheese in to start it off. Just so I can skip a step of having to put it into a container later. So we're gonna go ahead and start shredding this. You just make sure that your mixer is locked down so it doesn't accidentally open, and then just turn it on the lowest speed. Okay, there you go. You can see that made tons of freshly shredded cheese. It looks so good, and it's lactose free, which is the best part and the reason I do this all. But I'm gonna keep going and shred all the rest of the cheese. The key here is to use this pusher to push down the cheese slowly. If you go too fast, all the cheese is just gonna go into this like holder right here and get clumped up and stuck, and it's not gonna come out and it's not gonna work properly. So slow and steady definitely wins this race. These onions are looking perfection. This is probably the point where I would start throwing in the minced garlic if I were doing minced garlic today. So I'm just gonna let them cook a couple minutes longer, and then we'll start putting in the crushed tomatoes and seasonings. These onions are looking perfect to me, so I'm gonna go ahead and put in the can of crushed tomatoes. Like I said, you can cook the onions to your preference. I just make sure that they're cooked so that you can eat them, of course, but however you like. I like to get a nice brown on them. So now we're just gonna dump in the whole can of crushed tomato. And I like to throw a little water in the can and get all this extra out so we're not wasting it. Once you pour that in, just go ahead and mix everything up so that the onions are all throughout. And garlic if you added garlic, which I recommend. It's very good. I just don't have any. And now we're gonna add in our seasonings. Let's spice it up, if you will. First, garlic powder. Again, I'm sorry, I'm not going to measure. I'm going to measure with my heart. You guys should do the same. You can see a proportion of what I'm doing, like compared to how much sauce I did, but again, measure with your heart. Garlic powder first. Trust me, it's good. Onion powder second. We're going to do oregano next. I like a lot of oregano. And we're going to do crushed red pepper. Again, I like a lot of crushed red pepper. We like spicy, so this will give some spice. And I'm going to add a little salt and pepper too. This is totally optional, but I think it'll be good. Okay, now we're going to mix it all up again, so all the seasonings are mixed up throughout. Alright, now we're going to kick the heat up a little bit and go ahead and wait for this to start bubbling. You guys can see it's already bubbling, so I'm going to grab a lid, and then you're just going to let it simmer for 45 minutes to an hour, however long you can get it. And you're going to want to stir it occasionally to make sure that it's not burning to the bottom or whatever. And you're just going to do this until basically it's to your desired consistency. So I'll let you guys know how long I end up simmering this for. We're about to start on the super easy quick rise dough. So I have my stand mixer. I'm really zoomed in, but this is the bowl of my stand mixer. And first thing we're going to add is yeast. So I'm just using this regular active dry yeast. It can be any brand, doesn't matter. And we're going to do 2 teaspoons right into the bottom. And there's 2. And then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of sugar with that. Teaspoon of sugar. And then 1 cup of warm water. Not super hot, just warm. You're going to add that 1 cup of warm water to this and let it sit for 10 minutes so that the yeast can activate. This sauce has now been simmering for an hour. I think it's about to be done, so I'm just going to give it a stir. Oh, it looks so good. I wish you guys could smell through the camera. It smells amazing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. We're calling it done. I feel like the texture and consistency is really good. And it's perfect. Sorry, you guys are getting fogged up from all the steam. since we're leaving the dough set for 10 minutes and it's already like halfway through that time, we're gonna turn on the oven and get it ready. So we have a few options for just a regular standard oven, or if you just want to go like really easy, really basic, what I recommend is 450 for the temperature, just normal on your oven. However, my oven has all these different functions and settings, so I'll tell you what I'm doing on this too, in case you have like a Fisher and Paykel oven like me. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I don't even know, you guys. But if you have like this kind of oven that has a function setting as well, I like to do Aero pastry for pizzas. It makes them so good. And then again, we're gonna stick with the 450 degree temperature. So we're gonna go ahead and get the oven heating up while we're waiting for the dough. And yeah, let's do it. It's been 10 minutes, so we're gonna wrap up this dough process here. So we're gonna add 1 teaspoon again of salt this time. And then we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. So I don't measure it, I just count it and hope that it's close enough. It usually works. And then the last thing that we're gonna add to this before we mix it up is flour, of course. So you're gonna go ahead and add 2.5 cups of flour to the bowl. And I did wanna say that you do not have to have a stand mixer to do this. You can do it all by hand, and it's really not that bad. I've done it before. You just do it in a bowl the exact same way I'm doing it, except when I get to the mixing part, I'm just gonna put an attachment on my mixer, but you can just mix by hand until it's thoroughly mixed. It's totally possible and pretty easy. That is 2.5 cups of flour. So now, like I said, I'm gonna put on the bread hook attachment, or dough hook I guess it's called, to my mixer. And I'm just gonna mix it until it's all combined into a dough ball. So I just took off all my rings and made sure my hands are clean, since we're gonna get down and dirty in the dough now. I'm just gonna feel it. This is what I call, I don't know if other people call it this or have a name for it, but I call it listening to the dough. And I'm just gonna feel and make sure that it's right. For me, this is good. It's barely sticking to my fingers. You can see a little bit came off, which is okay, but it's not super sticky. It's also not too dry. It's staying in a ball form, which is good. So I would say that the proportions are good. If you get to this point and it's soupy or it's just way too sticky, too wet, add a little bit of flour, let it mix for another 30 seconds to a minute, and then reevaluate. However, if you're to this point and it will not form a dough ball, I would say I mixed mine for about 2 to 3 minutes probably, and that's how long it took it to form. If you're mixing yours and you can tell it's just not forming into a dough ball, it's dry, it's crumbly, it's crusty, then you can add just a little bit more oil and mix for 30 seconds to a minute and see where it stands. So you just kind of have to listen to the dough. But this looks beautiful. So now we're gonna let that sit for 5 minutes and then it's ready to use already. So let's go. The dough is ready to go. So we are about to make it into pizzas now. So I'm just gonna split it in half first of all. Rough estimate is okay. So Angelo and I like to do 2 mini pizzas per person. So we'll like eat one and then we'll save one for leftovers, and it's so good. I like to make my 2, one as a pepperoni pizza and one as a garlic cheesy bread. So that's what I'm gonna show you today. And Angelo usually just does 2 pizzas. So these are my 2. And then I have Angelo's 2 down there. You can barely see them, but I have a little pile of flour here, you can see. I'm just gonna kind of stamp these in the flour and work it in. I actually got a little too much flour, so I'm gonna dump some of it off. I usually don't do flour right on the tray. I usually do it into the bowl. And I thought I would try something different today, but I regret it. So don't put the flour right on the tray. I would put it in the bowl. So now I'm just gonna make these 2 into my mini pizzas. And I like to just press them. You could roll them, you could throw them, you could stretch them with your hands. I like to just kind of use the back, you know, of my hand and press them out. Guys, this is looking so good. Sometimes I like to just flip it over, give it another press. I always kind of go from the middle outward to kind of ensure that you're getting the same thickness all the way across. And this is looking so good. So now it's time for the best part, actually making the pizza. So one, I said I'm gonna make cheesy bread, one I'm gonna make a pizza. So first I'm gonna start with the pizza, and I'm just gonna throw on some of the homemade sauce, just scoop it right on there. Okay, next we're gonna put a generous amount of cheese. This is the shredded cheddar that we shredded together. I like a lot of cheese on my pizza. Who doesn't, right? Alright, last step here is pepperoni. In addition to liking a good amount of cheese, I also like a lot of pepperoni on my pizza. Alright, pepperoni pizza is looking so good. Now I'm going to flip it around and we're going to make the cheesy bread. If you're wondering why I didn't put the pepperoni all the way to the edge, it's because once it melts, everything kind of spreads out. So these will get to the edge once it cooks. For the cheesy bread, I have this perfect garlic cheesy bread recipe that I like to do. And again, I'm measuring with my heart, so I'm really sorry about that. But we're going to do the same seasonings that we did in the sauce. So that's going to be garlic powder. And I'm putting it right on there dry. A lot of garlic. Okay, now we're going to add onion. Now it kind of just looks like it has sand on it. Okay, now we're going to add oregano. Red pepper flakes. And then I really like adding salt and pepper to this. It feels a little weird, but I swear it's really good. I like a lot of pepper. I don't share this with Angelo, luckily, because he doesn't really like cracked pepper on it very much or at all. So this is all me, baby, and I put a lot of pepper. Okay, this is the most important step on this one. A generous amount of olive oil, and I'm using like a little basting brush to spread the olive oil and seasonings all around. So I'm going to add a lot of olive oil. And I'm probably going to need a lot more than that, but we'll just start mixing it up. And you can see that the seasonings clump together, but it's okay. Once you get enough olive oil, it will really start to spread out. Alright, we're even going to do a little bit more, just to really make sure that it's all spread out. I found that adding a lot of olive oil kind of solves the problem of a garlic bread being dry. The more olive oil I add, the more I find that it's crispy on the bottom but has like a nice soft texture and isn't super dry. So that's why I do a lot of olive oil. It also, of course, as you can see, helps me to really spread around all these seasonings and get the good flavor all over the crust. So once you're done with that and you're done spreading everything out, I just cover it in cheese and that's it. So now we're going to pop this in the oven, and how long you put it in there really depends on your oven, which I know that this recipe is halfway annoying because I'm not telling you exact things for everything. But when I had a gas oven, it took me probably around 18 minutes to get it where I wanted it. Now that I have this new induction stovetop oven situation, it takes a lot less time than that, probably half. So I'm going to time it today and see how it looks, but the key is just to look inside and see when the cheese on top starts perfectly bubbling and browning, and then you take it out and check the bottom. So I'll show you guys that process, but let's put it in the oven. The pizzas have been in for 8.5 minutes, and I'm going to pull them out and we're going to see how they're looking. Ooh, they look good. I don't know if they're done, but they look good. I'm going to look at the bottom and see if it's white in the center or browned and cooked all the way. Wow, it's pretty much brown all the way through. You guys could see that, so that's good. And I'm going to check the pizza. The pizza, I don't know if it's going to be as brown. It seems a little thicker. Wow, this looks good. No, I was right. The pizza needs a little tiny bit longer, so we're going to put them both back in for maybe like 2 more minutes. These have been in for 10 minutes total time, and let's see. Oh, baby, that is perfect. Yep, it's perfect. I'm going to cut it now. I love, you guys, when a little bit of cheese gets stuck on the pan like this right here. Oops, I flung that across the kitchen, but it makes a delicious cheese crispy, and they're so good. Yay, let's eat it. Time for a taste test. I'm about to grab a piece of each of my pizzas. Yum, it looks so amazing. Here's my cheesy bread. The bottom is so perfect. and you can see this is about how thick it is, so kind of like a thin crust. And I will say, if you take a little bowl or like a little ramekin of the sauce that we made and dip the cheesy bread in it, it is so fire. But let's try it. That is so good. What's funny about not measuring your ingredients is that for me, mine tastes a little bit different every time, and some are better than others. They're pretty much always good. This is a top tier. This is so good. Here's my pizza. It's kind of hard to show you guys. Here's the front of my slice. I can't show you. Here's the front of my slice. Here's the bottom. Here's the thickness. This one didn't puff up as much as I thought it would. In a good way. I like this kind of thickness, and it's not like hard. It's crunchy on the bottom but still soft in the middle. And let's try this. I don't know if that's focusing and if you guys can see it, but the inside is so pillowy and fluffy. It is perfect. You guys, this might be one of my best pizzas. You guys, I have no words. That is one of my best pizzas, I'm pretty sure. That is so good. I highly recommend this recipe if you want to try homemade pizza for yourself. It's so easy, I swear. If I can do it, you guys can do it. I didn't even know how to cook like 5 years ago. Seriously, swear on my life. I was a horrible, horrible cook. And I was doing everything store-bought. And I'm definitely not a pro chef by any means. I'm not Italian. I'm not anything that you would think is qualified to give you this homemade pizza recommendation. But I'm just a girly that likes to make things homemade when I can, especially when they're easy. And this is a perfect way to get started. This is like the first thing I really learned how to make from scratch. And it's so good that we eat it like every week or every 2 weeks. Is that good for me? I have no idea. Probably not. Maybe. I don't know. But it is delicious. Alright, you guys. I have to go eat dinner. That is all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Please let me know if you try this recipe. Tag me on social media if you post like a picture of your pizzas. And I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow. Bye!